Bienvenidos. My name is Olga Loya, y soy un cuentacuentos. I'm a storyteller. Today, you're going to hear a story, and we're going to play some games, unos juegos, and you're going to tell some stories, I hope. This is for all the familia. Just first, we're going to sing a song. I'm going to sing, you sing back. Bienvenidos a todos. Vamos a escuchar, vamos a contar, todos juntos. Welcome, everyone. We are going to listen, we are going to tell, all together, all together. First, we're going to play some games. And the first one is round robin. And they call it round robin because you start a story with one sentence, and then somebody else says another sentence and another sentence, and that's how the stories are done. So I'll give you an example. Once there was a girl. She was walking down the road. She saw a big bear. She started to run. The bear ran after her. She saw a hole. She jumped into the hole. The bear ran right by her. So that's a round robin. Then you have to pay attention, because if you're not paying attention, you'll say a thing that doesn't fit with the story. Once there was a girl. She was walking down the road. The dog said hello. She ran away. Still making sense, huh? Let me see if I can make it not sense. See, the girl was walking down the road. A cat jumped. She jumped. The cat jumped. She jumped. So you could keep going and going, and you're not going to go anywhere. You have to make the story move all the way around. Everybody filling in on it till you get to the end. And you can have sentences like, once there was a girl. She was walking down the road. She saw a man. The man said hello. She said hello. Suddenly, he started to run towards her. She ran the other way. He was chasing her. She was running fast. He was running faster. He was catching up. All of a sudden, another man jumped in front of her and the man said, stop! The first man stopped and ran away. The second man was her father. She ran into his arms, and he hugged her, and he said, you're safe now. So that's going round robin, and that story was making sense. So you have to do the story so that they work, which means you have to be paying attention. You can't throw something in there that doesn't fit the story. And the other one that we're going to play is called teléfono, telephone. And the way you play telephone is the first person whispers something to the second person whispers that same thing to the third person, and so on, till it goes all around the group, and when they get back, they say what they heard, and most of the time, it's not what they started out with. It can be really, really funny. So telephone, round robin with a sentence. In lesson 5, we did it with one word. In lesson 6, this is lesson 6, we're doing it with sentences. And then with the telephone, one thing is said, like I might whisper, my cousin is going to come to see me tomorrow. My cousin is going to come to see me tomorrow. My cousin is going to see it. And it goes around and around and around. And when it gets back to the first one was like, what? I didn't say that. It's a pretty funny story, a pretty funny game. Now I'd like to, I'm going to do another thing before I tell you the story. We're going to play a game. And you can do this at home. Get a piece of paper, and you write once, suddenly, then, finally. And you use that to tell your story. And everybody can tell a different story. I'm going to tell you 3 different versions with this very same setup. So once there was a girl, and she was walking down the road, and suddenly a bird flew right at her. Now, this little girl was really scared of birds. She started to run, oh, so fast. Then the bird said, "No, no, no, don't be scared. I'm not going to hurt you. I want to be your friend." And finally she stopped and turned, and the bird flew into her hand, and she took it home, and they were best friends for the rest of their life. So that's one possibility. Once, a boy was playing basketball. He was having a good time just playing by himself, just shooting and shooting. And suddenly another boy came running through, grabbed that ball, started throwing the ball up, and he was good. He was making baskets. Then a third one came, and they all were playing together. But the second boy, who was so good, was getting all the baskets. They couldn't get the ball. And finally, the first boy took the ball away from the second boy and said, "We have to pay better. We have to pay more fairly." And so they did, so everybody had a chance. And they played all afternoon. Same format. One more time. Once, a woman was shopping. She was shopping at a store, a food store. And she went up into the food section and she picked an apple. And suddenly, a worm came out of the apple. Ooh, she was horrified. But the worm said, "Don't be scared. I'm not going to hurt you." And the woman said, "Wait a minute, why are you talking to me?" "Well, I can talk. And the thing is that most people don't hear me. Pick me up." The woman was so scared. She didn't know what to do. So she picked up the little apple, and there was a little worm looking at her. And the worm said, "I have been wanting to talk to you." "Why?" "Well, you see, when you come shopping, you don't pay attention to what you're doing. You need to pay better attention." "What do you mean?" "Well, you just pick any piece of fruit. Look at the fruit. Make sure that it's good, that it's ripe, and it's ready to be eaten." All right. And the other thing is, I want you to take me home, and then you could put me in your garden. Then that's just what she did. She took that apple and that worm, and she put the worm in the garden, and the worm had lots and lots of worms, and there was a wonderful, wonderful garden. And finally, she had such wonderful vegetables. And after that, she always looked carefully at the vegetables and fruit that she was picking. So out of that, this list. Once, suddenly, then, finally. There were 3 different stories. And you can use this for everybody. Everybody take a turn using these same words and make up different words, different stories. So this story I'm going to tell you is a true, not true, true story. And see if you can figure out what's not true and what is true. I'll ask you at the end. For a long time, people have been asking me how I got to be a storyteller. And I started to think about it, and I decided that I'll start it with my name, Olga Loya. I like that name. It's got a nice lilt to it. But all the conversation was always around my first name, Olga. People seem to think that an Olga should come from Denmark or Russia and be blonde and blue-eyed. But there I was, from Mexico, middle-sized and brown-eyed, and Mexican. People would come around me and they'd look at me from foot to head and head to foot, and finally I knew they were going to come up, and they'd always say, "How'd you get a name like Olga?" And I'd say, "My father liked it." And they'd say, "Oh." I'd go away. But I knew they were coming back. They always did. And they'd come back and they'd say, "So how'd you really get a name like Olga?" "My father liked it." "Oh, come on. It has to be more exotic than that." And they'd go away. They'd come back again. And they'd say, No. Come on. You have to tell me the truth. How did you really get your name? A name like Olga. It's so unusual. And I say through gritted teeth, "My father liked it." And so the next person who asked me how I got my name, I told them a story. I was 15 years old when this all was happening, and I decided I was going to tell them a story because I was tired of them asking me that question of how I got my name. And the story that I told was this. Cuando mi papá tenía 17 años, él fue a México a visitar a su familia. When my father was 17 years old, he went to Mexico to visit his family. Y fue con su hermano. He went with his brother. Y visitaron con los tíos y tías y primos y primas. They visited with the uncles and aunts and the cousins. Se divirtieron mucho. They had so much fun, lots of fiestas, lots of meals, lots of everything. And every Sunday, all the primos and primas, they would go to our tardeada. The grown-ups didn't go. They had had their turn. Now it was the kids' turn. And at the tardeada, the afternoon dance, there would be people from all over the neighborhood, young people. And there'd be a conjunto, a band, and playing, and music, and singing, and everybody talking with each other. And one day, my father looked across the room, and there was a beautiful woman, young woman. She had curly hair. Everybody else had straight hair. Big brown eyes, long eyelashes, and a sweet smile. He said to his friends, ¿Quién es esa muchacha? Who's that girl? I said, es Olga. Ella se llama Olga. She's new in the neighborhood. Well, she noticed him. Every Sunday he would just be staring at her. He thought she was so pretty. And she noticed him because, well, he was guapo, handsome, alto, tall, with black curly hair and black shiny eyes and una sonrisa tan bonita and a beautiful smile. And she said to her friends, ¿Quién es ese muchacho? ¿Cómo se llama? Who's that boy? And what's his name? She was told that his name was Sandy. And he was from los Estados Unidos. Now every Sunday, they moved closer and closer and closer until they were dancing. And he asked if he could come and visit her at her home because in Mexico, you cannot see anybody unless you met the family. She said, sí, yo vivo con mi mamá. I live with my mother. Come and see me next Sunday. That next Sunday, there was my father with a suit and tie and his bouquet of flowers, and he was so excited. He got through there and he knocked at the door, and the mama opened the door and said, Entre, come in. Olga no está lista. She's not ready. So they talked about this and they talked about that, and then he noticed that there was photos on the table. He went over and he looked at the table and he could not believe what he saw. There were pictures of his mother and father and uncles and aunts. He said, ¿De dónde vienen estos fotos? Where do these photos come from? She said, es mi familia. Yo me fui de ellos mucho tiempo pasado, no lo he visto por muchos años. That's my family. I went away from them a long time and I haven't seen them in years. He could not believe what he was hearing. This was a long-lost aunt that everybody had been talking about for years, and she was a long-lost aunt, and Olga, who was upstairs, was his first cousin. He was stunned. And then he ran out of the house. Olga came down and said, pues, ¿dónde está Sandy? Where's Sandy? And the mama said, no sé, se fue muy rápido. He left right away. Well, Olga went to the tardeada, and there was no Sandy. She went to the next tardeada. There was no Sandy. She thought, did I imagine it? I thought he liked me. On the third tardeada, he came. He said, Olga, tenemos que hablar. We have to talk. She said, tú sabes que no podemos. We know we can't. Por favor, please. It's importante. It's important. And so they went to the backyard. He told her about her mother being his aunt and how she was his first cousin. He said, ya no te puedo ver. I can't see you anymore. It goes against my religion. It goes against my familia. I feel so sad, triste. I'm going to leave Mexico never to return. But I will give you a promise. The first girl child, I will name Olga. And that's how I got my name. People loved it. They'd say, we knew it had to be more exotic than your father liking it. One day, my cousin and I were sitting and talking, and I said, hey, you want to hear the story I've been telling people? And they just love it. She said, what story? And I told her the story that I just told you. And when I got home, my mother was waiting for me. And if smoke could have come out of her ears, it would have. I could see she was mad. I didn't know why she was mad. I did not want to know. I started trying to get to my room, but she got in front of me and she said, have you been telling that story? Me, to give myself a little bit of time, said, what story? That story about your father being in love with somebody named Olga and you being named after her? Well, a veces, sometimes. Don't you ever tell that story again. And so I didn't. I told another one. For about a year, I told a story about my father crashing in Russia and being taken in by a family. And can you guess what the oldest girl's name was? Olga. And I went back to the truth, which is my father liked it. And I think that was the beginning of my storytelling career. Now, which part is true and which is not true? I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it. The part that is not true is the part where my father went to Mexico and met a young woman named Olga. That's not true. But it is true that my mother heard me telling that story to my cousin, and that was not a happy camper, not happy at all. So names are really powerful. You know, when you're growing up and you like somebody, you write their name, and then you write your name, and if you really like somebody, you write their name, Mrs. or Mr. or whatever in the names. And lots of times people have nicknames. So in my family, one of my cousins, Eddie, he was called Sani. So I started asking around, why is Eddie called Sani? Well, it was really supposed to be Sunny, but with a Spanish accent, it came out Sani. And he was called that because he was a consentido, the favorite of my grandma Goya, my mother's mother. She said, when Eddie comes into the room, it's as though the sun shines everywhere. That's how he got the name Sani. My cousin Belia, she had a name called Billy because there was some kind of cartoon character that reminded them of her. And so she was Billy for years before she went back to her real name. So, and some people, they're called gordo when they're little, fat, but when they grow up, they're skinny, and they're still called gordo. Or like somebody called flaco, and he was skinny when he was young, and then he grew up and he was fat, but they still called flaco. It's just nicknames are so interesting. Names are so interesting. So I want to ask you to think about how you got your name and go to your whole family, every single one of them, and ask them how they got their name. And if they have a nickname, how they got that nickname or where they got that nickname. Sometimes we don't even know where we got the nickname. I never got a nickname, but I was lucky. Or maybe I was unlucky. My brother he had for a while, his name's Felipe Juan, Philip John. And people used to call him PJ. Ooh, it drove him crazy because it was like pajamas, right? He didn't like being called PJ. My cousin Eddie, he didn't mind being called Sonny, and my cousin Bella didn't mind being called Billy. Sometimes they don't mind the nicknames, and other times they like them. So go and ask your family for how you got your name, and then if you don't know, make up one. So let's pretend we're going to make up one. So if we were together, I would ask somebody for a name, and they would give me the name, and then I would make up a story. So let's say Tomas put his hand up, and I got his name. So I made up a story. Here's a story that I made up. Once there was a family that had many girls. 7 girls. And the papa said, I just one more. Let's just have one more. Maybe it'll be a boy. Please. Well, my mother didn't want to have another baby. She had 7 already, but she knew that he really wanted that baby. So she got pregnant, and they indeed had a beautiful little baby boy. But when he was born, they didn't know what to name him because, well, he was important, right? He was like the last baby. There's not going to be any more babies. And what were they going to name him? They called him the baby. 1 month, 2 months, the baby. 3 months, the baby. They had all kinds of names that they threw out. Jose, Juan, Roberto, Hector, all kinds of names, but nothing seemed to be right. Well, one day, the mama was walking along the beach, and she saw this bottle floating, and she picked it up, and she could see there was a piece of paper in there, but she couldn't get it. So she went home, and she got a skinny, like chopstick, She stuck it in there and pulled it out, and on there was the word Tomas. She called out, Esposo, ven a ver, come and look. And he came, and they looked at that name, and that's how Tomas got his name. So you can make up a story, but also look up to see what stories your family why they gave you that name or how you got the name. A lot of times you have them from grandmothers or grandfathers or aunts or uncles. Me, I don't know why, but it really is true. He just liked that name and gave it to me. That was the only reason he ever gave me how I got that name. And it turns out that there's a whole bunch of Olgas in Mexico. In fact, my daughter, she had her two best friends when she was growing up were named Olga. And we'd be in a room and somebody say Olga, and we'd all go, huh? What? Huh? So Olga in Mexico is not that unusual. So that's a story about name. And the last thing that I want to do is a thing with dichos, proverbs, to talk about how you live. Well, one of them is look before you jump. How many of you ever heard that? That's just being careful and looking to make sure that you jump into something that's going to get you in trouble. Haste makes waste. Well, that's like, when you're in a really hurry, you do stuff and then it doesn't look very good because you didn't take the time to really, really do it. And my abuelita Goya, my mother's mother, the one that used to tell stories, and she used to do dichos. She used to say, en la boca cerrada no entra moscas. The mouth closed, no flies go in. And that she'd say to us when we start gossiping or say something out of turn. Mira, en la boca cerrada no entra las moscas. We know we need to be quiet and pay attention. Más vale un pájaro en mano que 100 volando. Más vale un pájaro en mano que 100 volando. One bird in the hand is more important than 100 birds because that bird in the hand is what you have. So you pay attention to that rather than dreaming of all the other possibilities. You have that. And another one is, and my grandma always said, poco a poco se anda lejos. Little by little you go far. I used to get really impatient and want things to go really fast. I was definitely the one about waste makes haste. Because I would be always be in a hurry to get things done, and I didn't want to be sitting anywhere, And she'd say, Olga, poco a poco, se anda lejos. Little by little, one goes far. And I've remembered that. And I say that now, especially with everything that's going on. I say, poco a poco, se anda lejos. And I say to them, un paso a tiempo, one step at a time. So if you start to get really impatient, you can think about that. Poco a poco se anda lejos. Un paso a tiempo. So anyway, let's go over what we went through today. We did a round robin with a sentence. We did telephone, which is really funny. You can get in a circle with your family and have one start and go around. We did this one. Where is it? Once, suddenly, then finally. You could go around and everybody would have a different story every time. We did the name story. And the name story, names are really important. Don't forget. And we did the dichos, the proverbs. Go and ask your family for the dichos that they remember when they were growing up, or the proverbs that they remember when they were growing up, and what they were, and talk about them. Because the proverbs are life lessons, teaching us things. And there's many stories around on a proverb. So I want to thank you for listening. I hope you're telling, and I hope you play the games. So we're going to go now. I want you to sing after me. Adiós a todos. Hemos escuchado, hemos contado, todos juntos. Goodbye, everyone. We have listened, we have told, all together, bye.